So let me just bring you up to speed real quick. Here's where we are in 2025. We can fly B-2 bombers, manned by just a couple of dudes and dudettes, all the way across the ocean in the middle of the night. Fly for 36 hours straight, refueling in the sky multiple times. We can then drop massive 60,000-ton bombs from tens of thousands of feet in the air and hit a target the size of half of a refrigerator door. According to President Donald Trump, we can do that repeatedly, take out the entire military structure of Iran. We can do that. But for some reason, I can't get decent Wi-Fi in a hotel 20 feet from the beach. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with. I think our priorities are all askew. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Hold on, I can hear myself from. I think I'm coming from my phone. Let me turn that off. The Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and we are on location for the entire week. We are live broadcasting at Patriot Outpost, Mike Bravo. Sorry, I gotta work on my phonetic alphabet. Mike Bravo. Secret Patriot Outpost Mike Bravo is where I'm huddled for the entire week, all the way through the July 4th weekend, and then we'll be back at Patriot Command, Patriot HQ in Mar-a-Lago, in illustrious downtown Jacksonville, Florida. But there's a lot going on today still. We're on one big beautiful bill watch. We're on one big beautiful bill watch, and a Democrat in Congress actually did something I kind of agree with, but he did it for the wrong reasons. We'll get into that here in just a minute. Also, guess what's going to happen here in just a minute? We're going to get a White House press briefing from Karoline Leavitt. And you may remember the last time we had a White House press briefing, it was President Donald Trump. He rolled on in. It was last week. And I'm sure you recall. It was last week. They just did the Supreme Court came out with their final. They came out with their big final decision about the rogue judges and stopping the jurists on the bench in the district courts around the country, especially those 5 districts of Massachusetts, New York, L.A., Maryland, and D.C. All those judges who were trying to stop Donald Trump from, being the chief executive, trying to stop Donald Trump, the president of the United States, from presidenting, telling these district court judges who told President Donald Trump what he could do with foreign policy, what he couldn't do with foreign policy, what he could do with the border, what he couldn't do with the border, what he could do with pretty much everything that Donald Trump has the power and authority to do stuff with. They were trying to stop him, of course, because they're Democrats and they don't like what he does because they hate America, and Donald Trump's trying to make America great again. So we know why, but now the Supreme Court finally stepped in and said, you're not going to do that anymore. So Donald Trump had a big win on Friday, and that was the last time we had a press briefing. But today, Karoline Leavitt is going to come out. We expect momentarily, and when she does, we will bring that to you so that we can get the update. We can find out who's in that new media seat, which I'm always very excited / jealous about. And also, we can find out what's going on with the one big beautiful bill. And I imagine that's what all the news today is. It's all about the one big beautiful bill. But before we get to any of that, do me a solid and hit subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because as you can see, wherever I go, I'm packed up. I got my microphone, I got my camera. My light's not as bright as I got the ocean. I got the sunlight coming in from the right-hand side, but the light on the left is a little dim. The left is a little, as you can see, left is dim, right is bright. That's about the way it is with the country as well too. So anyway, we'll get to all that here in just a minute, and we are going to cover a lot of stuff that's been going on. We did have some breaking news though right before we went live today with the Department of Justice and this massive amount of fraud that they found. And then isn't it amazing? The Department of Justice found massive fraud when the Democrats have been telling us, oh, there's no fraud. There's no fraud. Hold on, I'm going to pull this up here. I want to pull this up right there. Boom, look at this. This is a press conference. You can see Dr. Oz is there. This is a press conference moments ago. They charged like 300 people with waste, fraud, and abuse in the health insurance system, which I'm going to be honest with you, the health insurance, that is, you want to talk about a scam. I thought meteorology was a scam, which it is, but health insurance, and especially Obamacare and the ACA. Listen to what happened here just before we went live. Oh, hold on. I gotta change. Hold on. I forgot. I'm on location. Let me change the. All right, here we go. There you'll be able to hear it. Listen carefully.
We are announcing today charges against 324 defendants for their alleged participation in healthcare fraud schemes involving approximately $14.6 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. In a takedown this large, I can't possibly describe all of the work that went into dismantling each scheme.
Okay, now this is interesting. $14.6 billion in false claims by over 300 people. $14.6 billion in false claims. And the Democrats and several Republicans were trying to tell you, no. Medicaid is totally fine. There's no waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid. The Republicans are trying to gut Medicaid. The Republicans are trying to take away Medicaid. Medicaid is good. Nobody's taking advantage of Medicaid. And then lo and behold, look at this. We've got here some waste, fraud, and abuse with Medicaid. We have here, lo and behold, a massive fraud investigation into Medicaid and all of these cohorts and all these people who were abusing the system to the tune of like $14 billion. It's really incredible. And look, the Republicans, they fall for it too. The Republicans and the Democrats, they're all trying to save Medicaid because Medicaid it's just a hot button issue. It's one of those things that people have gotten addicted to the point now where they are just going to, the Republicans are going to bend over backwards to save it, and the Democrats are going to do whatever they can to try and manipulate the people into thinking that Medicaid is going away. Listen to Ron Johnson talk about Senator Rick Scott saving Medicaid here in the One Big Beautiful Bill over the weekend.
Tell me what was preventing you from voting for the bill and what changed in the bill that got you to a yes?
Well, first of all, let me describe why it's so difficult to do what we're trying to do. Biden and the Democrats left behind enormous messes. Open borders, all the wars, 4-year deficits averaging $1.9 trillion. The 7 years prior to the pandemic, deficits averaged $660 billion. Democrats tripled that. So again, this is difficult to do. You know, my biggest problem is that we really weren't returning spending to a reasonable pre-pandemic level. But through multiple meetings with President and his economic advisors, I'm convinced that they are committed to returning to a reasonable pre-pandemic level spending, and I'll be highly involved in a process to achieve and maintain it. So that's at the crux. But specifically on Saturday night, Rick Scott, who is an expert at healthcare, I don't think anybody knows more about it than he, has an amendment that wasn't included in the base bill, and we're fighting to get it in there to remove the most damaging part of Obamacare on Medicaid. Nobody in the Republican Party is trying to impact Medicaid for the disabled children. We're concerned about the Obamacare addition to it. It's called Medicaid expansion. For every dollar the state spends on a disabled child, the federal government kicks in $1.33. But for single, able-bodied, working-age, childless adults, for every dollar the states kick in for those folks, the federal government puts in $9. That has led to provider fees, provider taxes. That isn't health care. That's causing the federal government to pour hundreds of billions of dollars into the states, putting at risk Medicaid for the vulnerable, crowding out those. There was a great article in the Wall Street Journal, a father of a 17-year-old autistic child. They're taking care of this child at home. They're on a 10-year waiting list for home care because they're being crowded out by single adults who ought to be working and getting their health care through their pace of employment.
Yeah, and so what we got here is we've got the Republicans fighting to actually get the waste, fraud, and abuse out of the bill, and Ron Johnson, who was formerly a no, saying, look, I worked with the president. I talked to the president. The president convinced me now that they are going to do whatever they can to cut spending eventually. They're going to get the spending back down to the pre-pandemic levels, and they're going to make sure that all of the spending that they want to cut out that they've promised us, because there are spending caps in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and that's something that I think a lot of people are looking at, are unaware of, or are being lied to about. And of course, that's what happens when you have a battle for anything. The people that don't want it are going to lie to you, and the people that do want it are going to have to beat back those lies. But Rick Scott, who made billions of dollars in insurance and billions of dollars in the insurance industry, he has added this amendment to say, let's stop funding Medicaid, and these Medicaid supplements for able-bodied adults who can go to work to the tune of $9 per person per dollar spent. It's all part of the Obamacare mandate, and it's all part of the ACA, which don't even get me started, because that thing is ridiculous. The government forces you to buy their insurance, and then they make it illegal for other entities to insure you at the same levels that they do. It's really, the more I dig into it and the more I realize what's going on with Obamacare and Medicaid and all these other health insurance scams, the more I realize it is a scam, and they probably need to investigate more than just those 300 people. I imagine there's going to be a lot more people who are going to be seeing the Department of Justice end up at their at their doors with some subpoenas. There's a couple of other stories, and just I'll be honest with you, when I'm at Patriot Outpost, Mike Bravo. I keep messing that up. When I'm at Patriot Outpost, Mike Bravo, I tend to just, sit on the beach for a couple hours, roll through the Twitter, and try to find some good stories. And that way I can just go back and I can just go to my Twitter and there it all is. And one of the people that always pops up on my X feed is Kevin Hassett. And Kevin Hassett is the director of the National Economic Council. And this guy's job is his job is to advise the president what his economic policy will do and advise what is happening here? Why can't you see me? There we go. Oh, no, there we go. His job is to advise the president what to do. His job is to advise the president on what economic policies are going to be best for the United States of America. His job is to advise the president on how they can create an economic policy that is going to benefit the majority of Americans and also not bankrupt the country. And that's what he does. But one of the other big things, apparently, that has now become part of his job is to go on television and thwart and discount and disprove the lies that are being told by the Democrats in Congress, the Democrats in the media, the Congressional Budget Office. And he does it. I'll be honest with you. He does a great job of it. Probably a better job than most people that I've seen do it. Here he is again today talking to, I think it's Fox News. Listen carefully.
CBO says that
I'm sorry, it's CNBC, a far cry from Fox News.
CBO says that the Senate bill increases the deficit by $3.3 trillion from 2025 to 2034, and that is $1 trillion more than the House bill. There were already concerns about the deficit in this bill. Do you disagree with those numbers?
Oh, I 100% disagree with those numbers. You remember that in the House bill, there were a bunch of things that were temporary. That were there for the first 4 or 5 years, but then looked like they raised money in the out years. But of course, a big tax hike in the fifth year is going to cause a recession and reduce growth and increase the deficit. The number that I think is the best number to think about when you're looking at that $3.3 trillion is that if we get 3% growth instead of 1.8% growth out of this bill, then that adds $4 trillion to revenue, which means that this thing is a big deficit reducer. This is the biggest spending cut in history, the biggest tax cut in history, and with a little bit of growth, it's going to be incredibly positive for the budget. And finally, don't forget, this isn't the only bite of the apple, that we've got lots of discretionary spending that we're planning to send up to the Senate to rescind. Russ Vogt, the OMB director, suggests that maybe that's going to amount to about $160 billion this year. If you get the $160 billion of rescissions, then multiply that by 10 to think about what the deficit impact is. And so this is a very fiscally responsible bill.
Okay, so here's Kevin Hassett, and he's saying to CNBC and to the Congressional Budget Office, and again, the Congressional Budget Office is a bipartisan, which means totally Democrat-run. It's a totally Democrat-run entity, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it impossible for Donald Trump to get his budget passed. It's one big beautiful bill, and the way they do that is by lying to people and telling people that this is going to increase the deficit when they're not looking at the entire economic package. They're looking at the bill. And if you look at the bill, sure, there's $3 trillion worth of spending. If you look at the bill, there's a $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling. If you look at the bill, there's tax cuts, which are expenditures for the government, sort of. There's also going to be these Trump accounts, which are being created. There's going to be border spending. There's going to be healthcare spending. There's going to be spending across the board for various government agencies. You're going to have no tax on tips, which is going to mean that the government's not going to be accepting as much income from tips. No tax on overtime, same thing. We're giving more money to seniors on Social Security. So if you look at it from that aspect, you're like, whoa, all this spending, tax cuts galore, we're not bringing in any money. This is going to explode the economy. The deficit is going to go boom. It's going to be like through the roof, like an Elon Musk rocket to Mars, and the country's going to be in a financial hole we'll never dig out of. But as Kevin Hassett says, that's only half of the battle. This bill, by cutting taxes, this bill by putting more money in seniors' pockets, this bill by doing all the great things that it does, not only keeps us safe, but also it spurs growth to the tune of 3.3%. And if you get that 3% growth, you're going to be paying down the deficit. So you can either just spend money like we've been doing for years with nothing in return, with no economic plan, with no money coming in, and the deficit continues to grow. Or, hey, you know what you could do? You could pass some spending that's going to spur growth in the economy. You could also have, investments coming from overseas, the Middle East. You could have investments coming from Taiwan. You could have investments coming from all over. You could have more jobs being created and more manufacturing. And in all of that, you could actually raise more money than you're spending and use the additional $2 trillion, which is closer to what it actually is, to pay down the deficit. And that's what President Donald Trump said. I have it here. See, Donald Trump was on with Maria Bartiromo. And I played this during the 47 Daily this morning. If you missed it, I'm going to play it again because it's so telling. But here's President Donald Trump, in his own words, explaining how the one big beautiful bill, when all the pieces are put into place and when all the lines are added up, not just the losses, but also the profits, it's a net gain for the United States of America, and it's a pay down of the deficit by almost $2 trillion.
It's very important. If we don't have it, there's a 68% tax increase. If we don't have it, the debt ceiling extension is very important. They gave a debt ceiling, the Republicans gave a debt ceiling because of the importance of doing it. They did that for the good of the country, and Republicans voted for that. They did a big favor. I don't know that I would have done it, to be honest with you, but whatever. They did a favor. Now the Democrats won't do that favor back. In other words, you never want to violate your debt covenants. So they gave, you know what I'm saying, they gave this 4 months early. It was due on September 28th, right before the election. A group of Republicans got together and said, you know what, this is so serious. We should do this for the good of the country. I understand that. Now it's their turn to do it, and they won't do it. There are a lot of bad people in the Democrat Party.
Yeah, you said it. Duh. Yeah, there's a lot of bad people in the Democrat Party. I've got some clips from them here. Not a lot of good people in the Republican Party either, too. I mean, there's a lot of good people, but there's some people who aren't good. But the fact of the matter is, President Donald Trump, and I don't know if he listens to my podcast or not. Wow, what a boon that would be. If President Donald Trump was listening to Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, just like you very intelligent people do every single day, that would be a boon. I wish you would post about it on Truth Social. That'd be kind of cool. But what Donald Trump is saying is something that I've been saying all along, that if you take everything that this bill does, the forced spending cuts, department by department, the booting of illegal immigrants and other people who should not be accepting Medicaid or any other supplemental coverage or government-funded coverage, if you get that savings in order, and if you look at all of the economic growth that Donald Trump has, not just in this bill, but in the spending package, you're going to have a down paying of the deficit by $2 trillion. And that's something that is very, very important when you look at it. The other thing that's happening is, let me go see here.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh, hold on. The press briefing is starting. Hold on. Perfect timing. Hang on. Here we go. Let's see what's happening with.
On a scheduling note, tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great state of Florida to attend the opening of a new illegal alien detention center located at Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport, alongside Secretary Kristi Noem, Governor Ron DeSantis, Congressman Byron Donalds, and other state and local leaders.
It's Alligator Alcatraz.
Many of you there. The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz.
That's awesome. I can't believe she called it that.
There's only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens.
That's fantastic.
This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history. We are truly coming off a historic week of President Trump racking up win after win on behalf of the American people. President Trump restored peace through strength and acted decisively as commander-in-chief to obliterate the immediate threat of the Iranian regime's nuclear capabilities, and then brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, which continues to hold. Then, the president traveled to the Netherlands and achieved a monumental win for the United States and the NATO alliance by getting our allies to dedicate 5% of their GDPs to military spending.
Also true.
As a result of President Trump unleashing American energy dominance, summer gas prices are at the lowest they have been in 4 years.
I can confirm that.
Into the July 4th week.
I can confirm
and
that.
With the incoming Trump economic boom, the stock market continues to roar back, with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ both hitting record highs. And on this point of an economic boom, I bring to you original correspondence from the President of the United States to our Fed Chair, Jerome Powell.
Oh, here we go.
As the President has consistently stated, The American economy is booming, and there were so many economic analysts who said that this president's policies would drive our economy down, when in fact we have seen the opposite.
True.
We've seen a massive deregulation campaign take place. We've seen inflation completely diminished from where it was under the reckless spending and the bad policies of the previous incompetent administration.
Also
I would
true.
remind the Fed chair, and I would remind the entire world, that this is a president who was a businessman first, and he knows what he is doing. He has a proven economic formula that worked in his first term as president, and it is working again. The one problem that remains is high interest rates for the American people. The American people want to borrow money cheaply, and they should be able to do that. But unfortunately, we have interest rates that are still too high. So the president sent this note to the Fed chair today. And if you look at this chart, this is a chart of all of the interest rates of many countries throughout the world. At the top is Switzerland. They're only paying a quarter for interest rates.
Wow.
Cambodia, Japan, Denmark, Thailand, Botswana, Barbados, Taiwan, Bulgaria, Cuba, Sweden, Morocco, Cabo Verde, South Korea, Algeria, Canada, Albania, Libya, Malaysia, China, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Czechia, Bolivia, Australia, Costa Rica, the Bahamas, Kuwait, Papua New Guinea, Bosnia, United Kingdom, and the UAE are all paying lower interest rates than the United States of America, which has one of the hottest and strongest economies in the world. The president sent this note to the Fed chair. It says, Jerome, you are as usual too late. You have cost the USA a fortune and continue to do so. You should lower the rate by a lot. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being lost, and there is no inflation. And the president is right. There is historically low inflation thanks to his policies. And we will continue to drive down the cost of living in this country for Americans. We will continue to deregulate. And it's also incredibly important that we pass this one big, beautiful bill, which is the largest tax cuts in American history.
I love that he sent
And
that
that's
to
why
Jerome Powell
the
written
White
on a
House
chart.
and the president himself have been in touch with lawmakers all weekend long to get this bill passed. And they are working very hard to do so. It remains a top priority for the president.
Yeah.
And this bill has exposed the clear differences between Republicans and Democrats in 2025. The Democrats are doubling down on craziness and radical policies that are undermining the very fabric of our country.
It's literally what I put
Just
in my
look at the
campaign
Democrat
video.
nominee for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani.
Oh.
He's a Democrat socialist, really a communist, who proudly calls to defund the police, peddles anti-Semitism, praises pro-Hamas groups, wants Israel abolished, and believes wealthy Americans should not exist. Those are his words, just as recent as this weekend. Meanwhile, under President Trump's leadership, Republicans are fighting tirelessly for everyday middle-class working Americans who re-elected this president, and we're carrying out a revolution of common sense, and all of that is packed into this one big, beautiful bill. It delivers the largest middle and working class tax cuts in U.S. history. It keeps America safe by funding the largest ever one-time investment in border security. It's enough to reverse the Biden border invasion. And every single Democrat is against that, against securing our border and deporting millions of criminal illegal aliens. The One Big Beautiful Bill also strengthens and protects Medicaid benefits, despite what Democrats are saying, for eligible American citizens who rely on it,
They're all
like
liars.
pregnant women, children, seniors, and people with disabilities, by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse that
That's right.
threaten to destroy this program that was intended for the most vulnerable in our society. And every single Democrat in Congress is against rooting out that waste, fraud, and abuse and blocking the 1.4 million illegal aliens who are currently improperly receiving these benefits that should be going to American tax-paying citizens. The Democrats in Congress are more concerned with defending illegal aliens than they are hardworking Americans. And the Big Beautiful Bill also revitalizes our military and enhances our defense capabilities, protects our country from emerging new threats by funding a cutting-edge missile defense system called the Golden Dome. And as we all know, the One Big Beautiful Bill makes the Trump tax cuts permanent. The White House and the president are adamant that this bill is passed and that this bill makes its way to his desk. Republicans need to stay tough and unified during the home stretch, and we are counting on them to get the job done. So with that, we will take questions. John Fredericks is in our new media seat today. John, thanks for being here. We'll kick it to you.
Oh,
Thank
who's
you,
John
Caroline.
Frederick?
Let's get to the One Big Beautiful Bill first. It
Sure.
appears now you're going to
Okay.
get at least 50
Guy looks
votes
like
in
old
the
media.
Senate. There'll be some amendments. What is the president's confidence level in getting 218 votes in the House by the end of this week in order for him to sign it on Friday?
Well, look, we are very well aware, the president is very well aware, that this bill needs to not only pass out of the Senate, but it needs to go back to the House. And we need the full weight of the Republican conference to get behind this bill. And we expect them to, and we are confident that they will. The president has been working hand in hand with Senate Majority Leader Thune and also our House Republican leader, or the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, both of whom will be at the White House today to meet with the president.
She forgot he was Speaker of the House.
This morning.
I forget sometimes too myself.
Follow up.
Sure.
You outlined Jerome Powell and the note that the president just sent to him. There are many who believe that Powell has been politicized in a lot of different ways. The president has not been shy about acting on things that he believes in. Why not just fire Jerome Powell and put in somebody that is going to lower rates?
That's a good question.
Well, it's a good question and one you can ask the president because that's a decision for him to make. But you're right to point out the politicization of the Fed, and it's very unfortunate for our country. But Jerome Powell cut rates numerous times ahead of the election when Joe Biden was in this Oval Office, but now he refuses to, and the economy is in a much better place. So there really isn't a good explanation for that, and the president is rightfully calling attention to it. Kelly.
Good afternoon.
Fire him.
Iran, the president posted on his social that he is not even talking to them anymore. When we were at NATO, he said he expected the U.S. and Iran to have talks as early as this week and that he might even want to see a written agreement. What is the update now if he's saying he's not even talking?
So as I told you from the podium last week, I said the administration, and namely our special envoy Steve Witkoff, has been in communication both directly and indirectly with the Iranians. That communication continues. The president himself has not talked to Iran, which he pointed out in his truth statement. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. Does President Trump want Zoran Mamdani deported?
I haven't heard him say that.
I do.
haven't heard him call for that. But certainly
Representative
he does not want
Ogles
this
has.
individual to be elected. I was just speaking to him about it and his radical policies that will completely crush New York City, which is obviously a city that the president holds near and dear to his heart.
There's this Congressman, Andy Ogles. He wants the Attorney General Bondi to explore denaturalization proceedings because he thinks Mamdani could have misrepresented or concealed material support for terrorism based on rap lyrics he wrote in 2017. Does President Trump think this is a worthwhile use of the Attorney General's time?
Well, I'll let the president speak.
I didn't
to
even
that.
know
I have not seen those
denaturalization
claims,
was a
but
thing.
surely, if they are true, it's something that should be investigated.
And could President Trump see himself, you said you just talked to him about this, could he see himself working with a mayor, Mamdani, somebody who, on Meet the Press this weekend, was given 3 chances to condemn the phrase globalize the intifada, but he couldn't?
Yeah, look, the president is always willing to work with everyone. He's working with Democrats across the country, Democrat governors, and he said he'll work with people on the far left. He works with Republicans. He works with people in the middle. He wants to do what's right for America, but surely someone who holds these values and is quite literally a communist and condemns every value that makes this country great. Common sense, law and order, low taxes, working hard, and earning
Eating
your
with
keep
utensils?
in this country. He's against all of that, and I think the president would find it difficult to work with someone like that. If he is elected, I'm sure you'll hear more from the president on that, but we'll have to see. Hopefully the voters of New York City choose wisely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, Caroline.
That's a nice way to put it.
The president on Friday said that he was hopeful of a Gaza deal within the next week. Can you give us an update on any progress towards that, and on any talks that the White House is having with Israel on that?
Sure. Well, I know that Mr. Dermer is in Washington this week to meet with senior officials here at the White House. I also know that this administration is in constant communication with Israeli leadership, and the president himself speaks frequently, as you know, to Prime Minister Netanyahu. But this has been a priority for the president since he took office.
I want to pause here for just a second and get back to Zoran Mamdani because I don't believe that Andy Ogles is really far off base here. And if the Department of Justice doesn't investigate it, I think that's a problem, because as somebody who has taken the oath of American citizenship, as somebody who came from another tyrannical dictatorship, Canada, and took the oath to become a citizen, there is a part you have to swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, protect the Constitution, and fight back against all enemies of the Constitution. And if Zoran Mamdani is one of those enemies, then he misrepresented himself while taking that oath. I believe it is 100% okay and not necessary for the DOJ to make sure that any and all American citizens who take that oath to become an American citizen do so with without any kind of, without any kind of dishonesty and represent themselves accordingly.
And the president and the vast majority of
Especially if they're Democrat socialists.
Are right. This bill protects Medicaid, as I laid out for you, for those who truly deserve this program, the needy, pregnant women, children, sick Americans who physically cannot work. And what it does is it ensures that able-bodied Americans who can work 20 hours a week are actually doing so, and that will therefore strengthen and protect those benefits for Americans who need it, as well as cutting out the waste, fraud, and abuse, as well as getting 1.4 million illegal aliens off of the program. So all of those measures are actually going to protect it for those who need it. That's the president's position, and that's what this bill does, and that's why Republicans need to vote for it and get it to the president's desk.
That kind of criticism from a Republican senator, is that reason for concern for the passage of this?
No, it's not. We're confident this bill is going to be back at the White House by the 4th of July. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. On the New York mayoral race, does the president plan to make an endorsement? And secondly, on Jerome Powell,
what is he going to endorse?
Obviously has been on interest rates and him keeping them high, but a new controversy erupted today. My colleague first reported that he's facing Chairman Jerome Powell is facing accusations of lying to Congress, which is a potential crime, about luxurious details of the Fed's $2.5 billion renovation project. Senator Loomis has called attention to this. Some experts want him to be investigated. Does the White House want these allegations investigated and, if found substantiated, punished?
I'll have to take a look at those allegations, and I will raise them to the president's attention and let him speak on them himself. To your first question regarding the mayoral race, the president was asked that yesterday by Maria Bartiromo. He refused to give an endorsement, so you won't get one from me at this podium unless he wants me to do that.
Also, who's he going to endorse? He's not going to endorse a Democrat, an independent, or Curtis Sliwa.
I can go to you.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you. The president said that he's working on a temporary pause for immigration enforcement in certain industries. I'm wondering what you can tell us about how he's determining which industries are deserving of a pass. He mentioned farmers, but what about, say, construction workers? I mean, shouldn't there just be one standard here?
I don't have any more details to read out for you, but what I can tell you is that the White House is working closely every day with the Department of Agriculture as well as the Department of Homeland Security when it comes to workforce enforcement, worksite enforcement, and the president's focus and the focus of this administration is, of course, to remove public safety threats from the streets and to deport as many of the illegal criminals, especially the violent criminals that we know are still here because of the previous administration. So that's the main priority and the goal.
And then the president has already made cuts to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, but now Senator Tom Cotton has put forward a bill that would cut the office by another 60%. What's the president's reaction to that legislation, and is this something that he would support, those additional cuts?
I don't know if the president's even aware of that legislation, but I will get you a response if he is aware and if he wants to respond to it. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. You mentioned the dangerous wildlife at the alligator Alcatraz.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Design feature. Why is the president going with this mega bill in such a precarious position in the Senate? And then also, can you talk about the CBO estimate that it would add about 11.
What, he's worried Donald Trump's going to get bitten by a copperhead?
Well, look, when you have illegal murderers and rapists and heinous criminals in a detention facility surrounded by alligators, yes, I do think that's a deterrent for them to try to escape. We do know that some of these illegal criminals have escaped from other detention facilities, like one in New Jersey, which I know was recently reported on. So, of course, we want to keep the American people safe, and we want to remove these public safety threats from our streets, and we want to effectively detain them as best as we can. As for why the president is going, I think his trip to this detention facility actually underscores the need to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill, because we need more detention facilities across the country. The last administration let in nearly 20 million illegal people from all over the world, and this administration is focused on arresting and detaining them. But in comparison to that 20 million illegal criminal population in our country, we only have 7,000 ICE agents in the interior who are doing this very important work. And so we obviously need more personnel, we need more resources, and that's why we need to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill.
On the CBOs.
Go ahead. Yes, in the pink.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Can you please share some details of China trade deal? Has the U.S. agreed to ease some export technology?
All right, I want to talk about alligator Alcatraz for just a second, then we'll get back to China. So alligator Alcatraz, which I don't know. Sometimes what happens is the folks in the media or the folks on the left come up with something and they think it's derogatory or they think it's negative or they think if we start describing this as alligator Alcatraz, then there's going to be an uproar and they're going to shut it down. Not in Florida. In Florida, alligator Alcatraz is like the coolest. That's like an amazing thing. That's a great name. If you told somebody in Florida, we're going to open up something called alligator Alcatraz, and it's a detention center for illegal immigrants, criminal illegal immigrants. It's going to be a temporary detention center. It's going to be in the Everglades. We're going to throw these people on an island surrounded by alligators so that they don't escape. Everyone in Florida would be like, that's a great idea. I don't know why we haven't thought of that earlier. I mean, alligators are a natural deterrent for escaping. I mean, it's like, it's like we've been doing this for years. You put the actual Alcatraz is in San Francisco Bay. And that is a natural deterrent because you can't swim across it. You die, you drown. The current's too strong. We don't have that in Florida. So we just throw a bunch of gators and snakes and stuff in there and it has the same effect. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great name. And I think that the left, somebody, I don't know who coined it, but somebody coined this phrase and I think they thought it was going to be a negative. But of course, it's just like when Hillary Clinton called us deplorables. Same thing.
The Israeli Prime Minister trial.
Yes.
He said it interferes with the negotiations on Gaza. And
by the way, I do have a quote from Governor Ron DeSantis about alligator Alcatraz coming up a little later on after this press briefing. Also tomorrow, I don't know what time they're going to be there, but I'm tempted to just go live at that time and watch the whole thing because you got Ron DeSantis, Byron Donalds, Donald Trump, alligators. It's got Kristi Noem. I mean, what more could you? It's good. It could be one of the most epic prison openings ever.
He's going through with his own judicial system in the state of Israel. Clearly, the president knows that very well. He too was.
Also, I just thought of something. I should probably make some T-shirts, right? Shouldn't we have like alligator Alcatraz athletics, or I escaped from alligator Alcatraz, or I went to alligator Alcatraz and all I got was this crummy T-shirt. I'll work on. Oh, you know what? I know I'm at the beach, but I'm here at Kaye Trade Outpost Mike Bravo, but I'm pretty sure I can drum up something before tomorrow.
Not just to the state of Israel, but also to the United States of America and the rest of the world. And he believes that Prime Minister Netanyahu should be praised for that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. On the mega bill and the amendment that would limit Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act, does the president want that amendment to pass?
The president wants this bill to pass. Meredith.
That's a dumb,
thanks, Caroline.
that's a dumb question.
On trade, we have this looming July 9th deadline coming up. We heard the Treasury Secretary say that he expects to wrap up these trade deals by Labor Day, but when President Trump was asked yesterday about any extensions by July 9th, he said, I think that would be necessary. So is the president ruling out any extensions on trade for any nations, even if they're negotiating in good faith?
Well, you heard from him directly. He said he did not think that it would be necessary. He is going to set the rates for many of these countries if they don't come to the table to negotiate in good faith. And he is meeting with his trade team this week to do that. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I just watched a CNN segment on a new app called Ice Block.
Boo.
Kind of appeared to be promoting this app where you can
tell I have that,
where
by the
ICE
way.
Agents are. Given the recent
I have that.
rise,
An app that tells people where ICE agents are?
Yeah.
And given the rise, I believe 500% increase in assaults on ICE agents, I wanted to see if you could comment on that and why CNN would be promoting such an app.
Because it's CNN.
Well,
They're horrible people.
Question. I'll have to go back and watch the clip myself, but surely it sounds like this would be an incitement of further violence against our ICE officers. As you know, as you stated, there's been a 500% increase in violence against ICE agents, law enforcement officers across the country who are just simply trying to do their jobs and remove public safety threats from our communities. And that's something we as Americans, including journalists at CNN who live in many of these cities where illegal aliens are hiding and were let in from the previous administration, should be very grateful for. So we haven't seen the clip. We'll take a look at it, but certainly it's unacceptable that a
I have the
major
clip. I'll play it for you.
would promote such an app that is encouraging violence against law enforcement officers who are trying to keep our country safe.
They do it in a way where they pretend like they're not promoting it, but they totally are. I'm going to play you the clip so you can see it.
Amendment. It sounds like the president is
agnostic about whether it's attached. Is that accurate?
Look, I'm not going to get into the details of the discussions that are ongoing right now, but the president wants these senators to come to a conclusion to get this bill back to the White House as soon as possible and make sure that it's a piece of legislation that can make its way back through the House as well. So obviously there's some ping-ponging between both sides of Capitol Hill right now, but that's why Senator Thune and Speaker Johnson are working with the president in lockstep every step of the way. In the back, News Nation, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. The president did
and then
announce.
in front of you, yes.
In front of.
Sure, I'll take both of you.
The president did announce last week that the trade deal with India is closed, and this could happen anytime soon. Are there any roadblocks as of now? Are there any updates on that? And how does the president see this about China's role or its influence in the Indo-Pacific region?
Sure, yes. The president said that last week, and it remains true. I actually just spoke to our Secretary of Commerce about it. He was in the Oval Office with the president. They are finalizing these agreements, and you'll hear from the president and his team, his trade team, very soon when it comes to India.
And on China? How do we counter China on that front?
Yes, I mean, look, India remains a very strategic ally in the Asia Pacific, and the president has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Modi, as you know, and he will continue to have that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. On the reconciliation bill, Senator Tillis from the floor yesterday seemed to suggest President Trump was getting bad counsel on the effects of the bill.
Tom Tillis, don't get me started.
Is President Trump aware of the analyses, and there are several of these, that suggest if rural hospitals potentially close, if there are Medicaid patients in the millions that become ineligible for that?
Yes, and that claim is just simply untrue. Rural hospitals comprise 7% of all hospital spending on Medicaid, and that illustrates that they have not benefited from the massive increase of waste, fraud, and abuse under the Biden administration. So this bill strengthens Medicaid. It will protect those benefits that hardworking Americans need, and that's why the president wants this bill to pass. The senator was wrong. The president put out a Truth Social post addressing it, and then the senator announced he's no longer running for office anymore. So I think that case has been closed, and the White House is continuing to focus on getting this legislation to the president's desk for his signature.
Fun fact, that means that Tom Tillis is going to vote no on everything Donald Trump wants until he leaves office.
Well, you and then you. There's confusion here.
A question on Syria. Has the Syrian government get back to you that they are ready to join the Abraham Accord? Is there any discussion with the Syrian and Israeli government for having a security agreement? Is the first question. And the second question, what's the end goal for talking with the Iranian? Is that only focused on the nuclear program, or are you willing to speak about other issues like the proxy groups and ballistic missiles, or even trade with Iran?
So as for discussions between Syria and Israel, you'll have to reach out to those respective governments. I can't comment on that. But what I can tell you is that this afternoon, the president will be signing an executive order to terminate the United States sanctions program on Syria. And this is in an effort to promote and support the country's path to stability and peace. The order will remove sanctions on Syria while maintaining sanctions on the former President Assad, his associates, human rights abusers, drug traffickers, persons linked to chemical weapons activities, ISIS and their affiliates, and Iranian proxies. And this is, again, an action that the president promised and shocked the world with in Saudi Arabia, because he's committed to supporting a Syria that is stable, unified, and at peace with itself and its neighbors. The president met with Syria's new president when we were in the Middle East, as you know, and so this is another promise made and promise kept by this president to promote peace and stability in the region.
All right, we're going to see what happens with Syria. That would be if you get Syria to join a peace accord with Israel. I mean, that's like 5 Nobel Peace Prizes.
Canada
Right?
says it's now dropping its digital services tax on American tech companies days after President Trump says he's halting all trade talks with Canada. First, what's the president's reaction to this? Can you tell us more about his call with Prime Minister Carney over the weekend? How did he get Carney to drop it? And also, what's the impact
Canada's
on
so
American
stupid.
tech
I'm
companies,
so
given this
offended that I was
latest
born
progress
there.
as President says he has been
Like, I know.
American tech companies?
It's very simple. Prime Minister Carney in Canada caved to President Trump in the United States of America. And President
It's so
Trump
embarrassing.
knows how
I'm
to
embarrassed for all
negotiate, and
Canadians.
He knows that he is governing the best country and the best economy in this world, on this planet. And every country on the planet needs to have good trade relationships with the United States. And it was a mistake for Canada to vow to implement that tax. That would have hurt our tech companies here in the United States. The president
why even try it?
made his position quite clear to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister called the president last night to let the president know that he would be dropping that tax, which is a big victory for our tech companies and our American workers here at home.
So stupid.
Harvard, if you don't mind, the administration today formally accused Harvard of violating civil rights laws by not doing enough to fight anti-Semitism. We know that the president has talked to us before about Harvard potentially having a deal with the administration in the coming days. Do you have an updated timeline for that? How's the negotiations going? And is more pressure needed for Harvard to take fighting anti-Semitism seriously?
Well, there was quite a direct letter that was sent to Harvard this morning, as you know. The negotiations are taking place behind closed doors, so I won't comment on that. But what I will share with all of you, for those who haven't seen it, is the context of this letter, because I think it's very important. And this comes from the Department of Health and Human Services, which concluded after a thorough investigation that Harvard University is in a violent violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin. And if you read some of the content of the investigation and what they found, the majority of Jewish students reportedly experienced negative bias or discrimination on their campus, while a quarter of Jewish students at Harvard felt physically unsafe. Jewish and Israeli students were assaulted and spit on. They hid their kippahs for fear of being harassed and concealed their Jewish identity from classmates for fear of ostracization. Images were widely circulated amongst the Harvard community that trafficked in obvious anti-Semitic tropes, including one that showed a $sign inside of a Star of David, and the campus was vandalized with anti-Semitic stickers, including one that showed the Israeli flag with a swastika. The Harvard campus was racked by demonstrations, as you all know, violent protests that violated the university's rules of conduct. The demonstrations called for genocide and murder, denied Jewish and Israeli students access to campus spaces. These are all facts that Harvard cannot dispute, and that's why the administration has found them in violation of Title VI and has threatened to withhold their federal funding, because if you break federal law, you should not be receiving federal tax dollars.
Duh.
And so I rest my case on Harvard.
We call that FAFO.
Yeah. So,
F around and funding's out.
Earlier today,
is that what it is? I think that's what it is.
Countries are often a form of blackmail. And,
oh my God,
and
tariffs are blackmail? Can we move on from
the
this?
sort of process that's underway. I didn't mention.
Now we know that the press is running out of legitimate questions, so they're getting to the.
Tariffs are really hurting developing countries.
They're getting into the stupid questions.
Conference going on. What do you say to that? Do you know, what is the president, was he aware
Tariffs
of that
are
comment,
blackmail.
and did he have any response?
I think the president and the White House would certainly reject that characterization by Prime Minister Macron. Tariffs are an effective use of presidential power to bring back the middle class, to bring back our manufacturing industry, which was the backbone of our American economy and has been hollowed out by globalist politicians who have caved to foreign countries instead of doing what's right for American workers. That's why the president is effectively utilizing his authority to wage tariffs and to utilize tariffs, and continues to be in discussions and negotiations on trade to do what's right for America. And Europe and the rest of the world might not be used to that, but President Trump is back in town, and he's going to do what's right for our people and our country.
Can I just follow up on Netanyahu? So there's a report in Israeli media that the Prime Minister will actually be here, that Netanyahu will be here today meeting with the President. Can you confirm that?
I don't believe Prime Minister Netanyahu is here today. I think you guys would know about that by now.
Wait, what?
Unless there's something going on I don't know about.
They're having a super secret
I do know
meeting.
he has expressed interest in coming to Washington and meeting with the president,
Donald Trump's,
and we are working on a date for that.
Office.
I do not believe it is today, but that would be fun. You never know in this White House, let's be honest. Go ahead.
Thanks, Carolyn. Does the president support this new measure in the big, beautiful bill that would impose steep new taxes on new wind and solar projects?
I believe you're referring to the
say yes.
The credits for wind and solar projects.
No,
and
we're talking about the new tax. There's a new tax that it's estimated would add 10 to 20% to the cost of any new wind and solar projects that start after this year.
Again, I don't want to comment on the specifics of provisions, but I'm sure the president will speak on that directly. Again, this is an ongoing process. The president continues to be very much engaged with the leadership in.
That's what caused Elon to flip out again, by the way, because Elon Musk sells a lot of batteries to wind and solar projects.
Building Trades Union is saying that it's the equivalent of terminating more than 1,000 Keystone XL pipeline projects. Is that something that would concern him?
Well, the president spoke on this yesterday in his interview, and he said he understands that legislators want to protect jobs in their communities and in their districts. And so he understands why some of them are against this provision, but he also understands why people want the provision. So again, this is an ongoing deliberation.
I have that actually. I should probably
discussion,
play that
and the
again.
president is engaged in this very much.
I should probably play that again.
We've been hearing from White House officials for weeks that you're close on trade deals with a number of countries. Can we get any update on which countries will have deals by the 9th and when there may be any announcements?
I'll let the president and the trade team speak on it.
Can you respond to the CBO estimate that the Senate bill would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion?
They're lying.
This is one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation that has ever made its way through Capitol Hill. There's $2 trillion in mandatory savings in this bill, and not only that, the projected growth that this bill will bring to our economy. It will be an economic boom. The Council of Economic Advisors has an analysis that shows that the bill will generate $4.1 trillion in economic growth, and it will cut taxes, putting more money back into the American people's pockets. That's why this president wants this bill to pass, and I know he's busy working the phones and doing what he needs to do today to make it happen. So we'll see you all later. Thank you. We'll
All right, there you go. See you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you, Caroline. Thank you for everything. All right, so a couple things. That was Caroline Levitt there with a great press conference, and she answered a lot of questions that she's already answered before, but that's how these press conferences go. And a couple things I want to hit on. First of all, we'll get to Alligator Alcatraz in just a minute. So Tom Tillis in the One Big Beautiful Bill, he basically announced that he's against the One Big Beautiful Bill. And of course, then he announced he's not going to be running again in 2026. And this is exciting for a couple of reasons. Number one, Tom Tillis is out of the Senate. It's also maybe another opening for somebody to run that we like. Lara Trump had been rumored for a long time to be the interested party, but she did not run in the end. I don't know that she had the support in the Republican Party to run. I know that she was part of the GOP with Mike Whatley to get President Donald Trump. Hold on, let me turn that.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Let me turn that. Now they're showing old press briefings, so we're going to turn that off. That I know that she was, but then she didn't have the support in the Republican Party to do so. But now you're going to need somebody from North Carolina to run. She does live in Florida now, so maybe they'd have to move back. But there's going to be somebody in North Carolina, hopefully who's conservative, hopefully who's combative, hopefully who can not give in to the moderates or the middle of the road, or just be somebody who's in it to pad their own pockets. Like the typical problem Republicans that we have in the GOP, the rhinos, we like to call them. Hopefully we'll get somebody like that in there. But what it means is it's going to be a boondoggle for President Donald Trump, because Tom Tillis is going to vote no on pretty much everything. He's going to vote no on, he's going to be the Thomas Massie now. Only Thomas Massie, I'll be honest with you, I believe Thomas Massie, when he votes no, does it because he believes it's a bad idea. I don't think Tom Tillis votes no for that reason. I think Tom Tillis votes no because, well, he doesn't like President Donald Trump. But the fact of the matter is that's going to be a big opening. The other one is Don Bacon in the House of Representatives, who's not going to be running for office again. And that could also cause a problem when you're looking at needing 218 votes to get through. First of all, the one thing, though, that I hope that happens, first of all, in the House of Representatives is that everybody who slept through the last vote, I hope to God they got like an alarm clock, or they set their phones. They set the alarm on their phone, or they just got somebody to come and like shake them awake when it's time to go vote, because we can't miss a single one if we're going to get this thing passed. And the things that are going, I know, again, over and over and over again about this bill that people are saying is the deficit will increase, and that again is just something that is not true. Chuck Schumer did something which I know why he did it, and I know the reason behind it, and I know it was a tactic, but in the end, I think it was actually a really good idea. Chuck Schumer, in an effort to slow down the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, he did something that I think everyone expected. He demanded a floor reading of the entire bill. And so what happened is, before the vote, before anyone could do anything, they stopped, and the clerks came in, and they brought the 900-page bill, and they have to read aloud every page of the 900-page bill before they can go forward to the next step. They have to read aloud every single page. 900 pages. Not one clerk, multiple clerks. They take turns because, it's not like Cruel and Unusual Punishment. But they want to make sure that it was a 16-hour process, or is, I think it's still going on, 16-hour process. And so if you're reading this bill for 16 hours, that's just delaying the inevitable, and that's why it's a tactic. But I will say this. I like the idea of having to read the bill in Congress. I like the idea of having to read this thing aloud before somebody votes on it for a couple of reasons. Now, number one, most of these people don't read the bills they vote on. They don't read it. These senators aren't reading a 900-page bill. They've read subsections of it. Maybe they read their amendments. They probably got bullet points from ChatGPT or one of their administrators who, let's face it, probably got the bullet points written from ChatGPT. And I'm not knocking AI. I love AI, but I feel like you should actually read the bill yourself. And I know what you're saying, Mark Kaye. They can't all read a 900-page bill. Fine. They can't all read a 900-page bill. I mean, they could. They could. They're just not going to. Which leads me to a couple of other things. You should then shorten the size of the bill, shorten the number of pages. You should then, make sure that it hits the highlights and that there's a bunch of pork and there's a bunch of other stuff in there. Maybe you limit the size of a bill to, 500 pages. We've seen bills that are massive and we've seen them cut down. Now, I know this bill is called the One Big Beautiful Bill, but 900 pages is still fairly short for something called for any bill. You may remember the last bill was something like 1,800. The fact of the matter is that by forcing everybody to have to, and they don't listen, I know they leave the chamber, they go back to their office, but by forcing the reading of it as a delay tactic, it's something that I think Chuck Schumer has shed light on, that people should A, read the bill, B, know what's in the bill, and C, try to keep these bills as small as possible. And what they're doing now is they're throwing on more and more stuff. So anyway, this is all stuff that I'm a big fan of shedding the light on how ridiculous things are and it's not Donald Trump's fault. Donald Trump has an agenda. Look, Donald Trump could write out on one page what he wants the One Big Beautiful Bill to do. No tax on tips. No tax on tips. Literally 4 words. No tax on overtime. Is overtime one word? 2? Maybe it's 4 to. It's one word, I think. Overtime. Yeah, it's 1 word. 4 words. Trump accounts for newborns. Again, 4 words. It could be shorter than it is, but it's not because everybody, you got 100 senators, you got 435 Congress people, they're all throwing their crap in there, and it takes 16 hours to read this thing. That's why I'm not hateful. I hate Chuck Schumer for a lot of reasons. Number one, I believe that he's a coward. Number 2, I believe that he's a socialist. Number 3, I believe he's a self-hating Jew. Number 4, I despise what he's done to New York. Number 5, I think he's way too old to be in Congress. And number 6, the dude doesn't know how to cook hamburgers. Also, number 7, he threatened the life of Supreme Court justices. So there's all these reasons to hate Chuck Schumer. Oh, and number 9 or whatever we're up to, he could potentially pave the way for AOC to become a senator because he's so bad and for whatever reasons she's so popular. But anyway, those are all reasons to hate Chuck Schumer, but this is not one. I like that he forced the reading of the bill. I like that these people have to sit now for 16 hours and figure out, is this something that they're going to pass, or, it gives them more time, and maybe they actually listen to something and hear something that they don't actually like. Or maybe if they're against the bill, they sit and listen to something and they do like it. And then they vote for it. Now, the one thing they could do is root out all the lies. And you want to talk about lies, man. There's no bigger liar in the Senate than the guy by the name of Adam Schiff. And this guy, it's baffling to me that you can be, but again, it's California. It's baffling to me you can be censured by the House of Representatives for lying, for perjuring, for whatever it is he did. This guy is such a snake in the grass. He introduced the whistleblower report in the very first impeachment against President Donald Trump, impeachment 1.0. Russian collusion, all that stuff. No collusion, no obstruction. That was the whole final report. But basically what he did was he lied about it. He said, look, here's the whistleblower report. And he didn't like it. It wasn't damaging at all. So then he just made something up. He just started coming up, ad-libbing it. And everyone was like, dude, you can't just read nonsensical fiction into the record of the House of Representatives during an impeachment trial. We're going to censure you. And he got censured. And you know what happened in California? They made him a senator. It's like you get censured. You basically break the law. You become one of only 25 at the time representatives to ever be censured. Think about that. There's 435 representatives in every Congress. Think about how many thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of Americans have served in the House of Representatives. And this guy is one of 25 at the time to be censured. That's really, and now he's a senator.
If you are in the top 0.1% of income earners making more than $5 million a year, you will get a $346,000 tax cut. How is that fair? How is that right? And it borrows the money from our kids to pay for that $346,000 tax cut, to pay for the habits of really rich people. Where is the fairness, the morality in that? When is enough enough?
By the way, this is not a guy who should be using the words fairness and or morality, because he is unfair and immoral. But there he is, lying to the American people again about how it cuts taxes. Guess what? If the rich people's taxes are cut by $300,000 a year, guess how much the median income family's taxes are cut? A lot more. I mean, not the same amount, but also the percentage when it comes to whether you're middle class or filthy rich. It's going to be a lot. You're going to be able to feel it and enjoy it a lot more. Donald Trump is pushing for anyone making less than $200,000 a year to make no taxes. So it's all, yes. Are the rich going to pay fewer taxes or less taxes? Sure. Are the middle class? Absolutely. The largest tax cut in history. He doesn't want you to think about that. He just wants to demonize rich people again. He wants to demonize the wealthy, of which he, by the way, is a member. This guy isn't poor. Adam Schiff isn't living in squalor. That guy's filthy rich. Nancy Pelosi's filthy rich. All of his Democrat friends are filthy rich. His donors are all filthy rich. They're going to get a tax cut. But so are you. So am I. So is everybody else. That's the thing that he's failing. That's the thing that he's failing to mention, because, again, that doesn't look good for his cause. That just makes Donald Trump's cause look good for everyone else. Here's Scott Bessent again to talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill and how there's an 11% cut in non-discretionary spending. Something else the Democrats never really like to tell you about because, well, it doesn't fit their narrative. But here's Scott Bessent, who is as smart as he is tall, describing it very, very well.
I think everyone believes that this is a start. So it's an 11% cut in non-discretionary spending, and we're going to go from there. So we didn't get here all at once. We've gotten here 20 or 40 years, and we are going to bend the curve, bring the debt levels down. I'm a fiscal hawk. I've had a lot of very good meetings with that group, and I think we're all on the same page on how to grow the economy while controlling and bringing down expenses.
There you go. And that's exactly what he's talking about. This is a start. This is where we are. We're going to cut down. Where did I go? What is happening? We're going to cut down all of the spending little by little. It's taken us a while to get here. It's going to take us a while to get back, but we're going to get back. And when we do, America is going to be this incredible place once again. It already is, but it's going to be even more incredibler, and the savings are going to be there. Again, a lot of folks are trying to convince you that this bill is bad. I just personally do not see it as being as bad as they say that it is. I did want to play you one more clip. It was about alligator. Oh no, I promised I would. Okay, I got to play you two more clips. This is the CNN clip that Caroline Leavitt was asked about, where CNN is aiding and abetting illegal immigrants because they're promoting ICE Block, which is a new app which helps illegal immigrants avoid ICE. Let me play you this because this is and I believe they're reporting on it as if it's a bad thing, but really what they're doing is they're promoting it to illegal immigrants who may not know about it.
Trump administration steps up ICE raids and mass deportations. One tech developer is pushing back with an app designed to track ICE activity in real time. It's called ICE Block, and it's controversial to say the least. CNN's Claire Duffy is with us now. How does this work?
Okay, right here. So they're saying this is a controversial app. It's blocking ICE raids in real time. It's tracking ICE officers in real time. And it's controversial, especially because what this app does is it gives illegals the opportunity to know exactly where ICE is maneuvering and what they're planning and how to avoid them. That is controversial, to say the least. But let's do a whole segment on how it actually works and how it could help illegals avoid law enforcement.
Claire, and what are the legal implications?
Yeah, John, I talked with Joshua Aaron, who is the longtime tech worker who developed this platform, and he said he really wants it to be an early warning system for people about the location of immigrations and customs enforcement officers.
Okay, let's not call it what he'd like it to be. Let's call it what it actually is. He says an early detection system for law enforcement officers to detect ICE. Basically, what that is aiding and abetting. This is the same thing that happened in the court in Arizona and New Mexico. Remember when the judge told the police, go wait in that room over there. And then she like opened the back door so the illegals could run out the door. It's the exact same thing. It is obstruction of justice. If you have ICE agents, if you've got these ICE, law enforcement agencies who are planning raids, who are trying to round up illegal thug, criminal, gang members and drug dealers and human traffickers and murderers and all these other people that have come into our country illegally. So they're not just illegal aliens, they're also criminal illegal aliens. They're trying to wrap all those people up and round them all up and send them out of here. Send them out, send them to Alligator Alcatraz or back to Seacott or wherever so that they're not harming Americans. They're not taking advantage of us and they're not making our streets unsafe. That's what they're trying to do. That's why they're called law enforcement, immigrations and customs enforcement. And what this guy has done is developed an app, and it's not an early detection system. It is obstruction of justice. And they know who the guy is. They've got his name. Heck, they interviewed him. I don't know. This guy, Tom Homan, should probably be knocking on his door anytime minute with an arrest warrant. But again, I'm no lawyer. I was, however, waitlisted from one of the finest law schools in the country.
So he says he does not want people interfering with those officers' activity, but he does want people to be able to avoid them altogether.
Okay, so that's enough. Right. I'm not saying go and interfere with ICE, which people could 100% do. We've already seen how ICE agents. Do you remember what happened in California? Not just a couple weeks ago. It was mayhem. It was ICE agents and police officers getting bombarded, getting bottle rockets shot at them, getting bricks thrown at their head. It was massive chaos. There were riots. It was insanity. And it was all because ICE agents were just trying to do their job. And the governor had no... That's when Donald Trump had to call in the Marine Corps. That's when Donald Trump had to call in the National Guard. That's when things really started to get hot and heavy. That's when everybody started the No Kings stupid, very ineffective protests all around the country. Well, now you've got this guy who is using technology to multiply that. Now it's easier than ever for illegal immigrants and or rioters, George Soros funded rioters, to go out, find these agents and potentially do them harm, like we just saw in LA a couple weeks ago. And CNN's talking all about it.
If they want. So you open the app, it looks like a map, and users can tap the map to report.
Now she's basically giving you a tutorial. now she's basically like, here's what you do. Step 1, download the... This is like that AOC thing. Remember when AOC was doing webinars with illegals about how to avoid ICE? This is CNN.
An ICE sighting in their area, and then everybody who uses the platform within 5 miles of that sighting will get a push alert. This is a free iPhone app. It is anonymous. Aaron says he doesn't collect any user data. And what I think is really interesting about this in this moment is we've seen so many of the biggest leaders in tech supporting President Trump. But Aaron is sort of an example of the fact that there are people within the tech industry who are really resistant to Trump's policies. I asked him what he would say to those tech leaders who, for example, were at the inauguration. Here's what he told me. Take a listen.
I understand that you have shareholders to report to. I understand that you have employees that need their paychecks. But at what point do you say enough is enough?
And John, I should say that ICE did not respond when I asked them about this platform and about Aaron's opposition to their activity.
Okay, so this guy's saying, I understand that you've got shareholders. I understand you've got employees. I understand that you're sucking up to President Donald Trump because you don't want him to shut down your company. But at what point do you say enough is enough? We are going to break the law. At what point do you say enough is enough? There are people out there who want to hurt law enforcement agents, who want to get away with illegal activity, who want to keep illegal immigrants in this country. There are people who want to make this country less safe. At what point are you going to say, yes, I will stand up with those illegal immigrants. Yes, I will stand up with those lawbreakers. Yes, I will stand up with the people wishing to do harm to the brave men and women of American law enforcement and the immigration customs enforcement. Yes, I know that I've got a company to run, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to become a political activist lawbreaker who obstructs justice and aids and abets illegals in potentially evading and or harming customs officials. That's what I'm going to do because that's what being a tech executive is all about. These people, I don't know what it is. They go through so many mental gymnastics to try to justify their stupidity and their idiocy and their criminal activity and their just bizarre way of life. It's really, if he spent all of this time on an app that actually helped law-abiding citizens, maybe avoid criminal activity or avoid gang. What if he did the opposite? What if he allowed people to anonymously report illegal immigrants in this country who were up to no good, and then ICE, think about that. Think about how great that would be if ICE actually had an app that was able to help them. You know, this guy, he's basically created ways for illegal immigrants, but instead of telling you where the speed traps are, he's telling you where the ICE agents are. I wonder if Waze is obstructing justice. I don't think it is. I don't know. Maybe, you know what? I'm up in the air on, as somebody who has avoided many traffic tickets because of Waze. I'm up in the air on that. And speaking of illegal immigration, I got to play Ron DeSantis here with his explanation of Alligator Alley, which opens tomorrow. Tomorrow in the Everglades here in Florida, the free state of Florida. Ron DeSantis, President Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, Byron Donalds, all of them will be on hand at Okeechobee, Florida for the opening of Alligator Alcatraz.
No problem, but all the stuff that goes into intake and processing of illegals, you're seeing this put up. This is all 24 hours. 24 hours from now, you're going to see even more. And by Tuesday, this will be able to have intake of illegals.
And you've thought of everything. Okay, so there are 4 gigantic tents. Let's come on over here, Governor. And people are thinking, okay, you're in the middle of the Everglades. It's hot. That would explain why you've got this bank of air conditioners here.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be, illegals will come in, they'll be processed. There'll be places for them to be housed. You'll have an ability for food. You'll have an ability for them to consult legal rights if they have that, because there is a process that's involved with this. So this is really everything. This is going to be a self-contained little area. And then, of course, you also have stuff for the staff that work here. So we've got laundry facilities, we've got showers, we've got, obviously, there you see the shower and bath facilities.
Yep, right there.
Yep.
Where do you go to get a bunch of bathrooms like that?
Well, so this is being done by the Division of Emergency Management. So when we have a hurricane, like we would actually have people stage here for hurricane response normally, anyways, but we have it. When we have all the linemen come in to do the power, we have to set up little areas for them. And so you have all this type of stuff. So this is not our first rodeo. The detainee illegal alien mission's a little bit different, and the deportations, but logistics, we know how to do that.
Right, and you know, for people thinking, okay, they're gonna put the migrants on this hot asphalt, it looks like you're building a subfloor, and in fact, some guys putting down the plywood.
Yeah, no, look, this will be, I mean, there's not going to be anything that they're hurting for anything. There'll be AC. There'll be things that everybody needs. There's medical here. So it's being done right. It's being done by the book.
Well, you know, when you think of the imagery of Alcatraz, Alcatraz is surrounded by a bay. Here in the Everglades, we're surrounded by, you're actually surrounded by gators and pythons.
So this is as secure as it gets. I mean, if a criminal alien were to escape from here somehow, and I don't think they will, you've got nowhere to go. I mean, what are you going to do? Trudge through the swamp and dodge alligators on the way back to 50, 60 miles just to get to civilization? Not going to happen. So not only that is it secure, it also takes this deportation mission out of the hair of our local and state law enforcement. This has no impact on Florida residents because some of that stuff can have an impact on them if it's in more populated areas. And so logistically, this really answers the call. All you need is a little bus to move them, you know, about 2,000 feet that way, then get on a plane and they're gone.
Well, listen, the DHS must love this because they're hurting for facilities, and here you are helping the federal government out.
Yeah, well, I said at the very beginning when President Trump took office, you have to have state and locals on board. You got to be on the team if you want to get the deportation mission done. We're done that better than anybody, but I hope other states will follow suit.
Could you imagine? They would never do this in California. First of all, they don't have enough gators. All they have are, like, you know, agents, which, by the way, if you surrounded a facility with a bunch of agents, I wouldn't try to escape either. Those people are even worse sometimes than alligators. That's Ron DeSantis in Florida saying, look at him. He's got his shades on. This is a guy in campaign mode for sure. This is a guy, yes, he's trying to help with the deportation effort. Yes, he's trying to help with the law enforcement effort. But yes, he's also trying to get elected president eventually. He's got an upward battle. He knows it too. And this is a great campaign video, isn't it? From the guy who brought you Alligator Alcatraz It's Ron DeSantis 2028. This is the kind of stuff. Publicity stunt, maybe. Practical use of our natural resources, absolutely. We have a lot of great stuff here in Florida. We've got sunshine. We are the Sunshine State. We've got beaches. We've got tourism. We've got all kinds of great stuff that we take advantage of. But isn't it about time that somebody figured out a good practical use for the deadly reptiles that plague our Everglades and our swamps? Isn't it about time that all those pythons and copperheads and water moccasins and tsetse flies and deadly mosquitoes, isn't it about time that we figured out a way to use all of those creatures in a way that is beneficial to mankind, to harness the power of the gator as nature's protector? I mean, that's really what it is now. Here we have nature's sentrymen. They are alligators. Nobody is going to try to escape. And I'm shocked that we haven't thought about this earlier. Or, I mean, we may have thought about it, but we never actually put it to good use. And it's like, I remember, what was it? It was Sean Connery in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Remember when Sean Connery, the planes are flying and he takes his umbrella and the birds fly up and he goes, "I suddenly remembered my Charlemagne. Let my armies be the beasts of the sea and the fowl and the fish in the ocean and the birds in the sky," and whatever it was. This is exactly what we're doing. We're now letting our ICE agents in Florida are not just our ICE agents in Florida. They are the gators in the swamp and the pythons in the reeds and every other deadly creature that God put on this earth that we finally found a use for in the free state of Florida. I, for one, am very pumped for the opening of Alligator Alcatraz. That will be tomorrow. I'm not really sure when, but I will be here. we will make sure that we are covering it. Hey, speaking of the free state of Florida, there is somebody out there who is running for office in the free state of Florida, and that person's name is me, Mark Kaye. You may have noticed my hat, Mark Kaye for Congress, and it's going to take every ounce of monetary fundage that we can find. It's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of door knocking, but a lot of money too. And we're starting from ground zero. We don't have a slush fund of old campaign donors to go to. We don't have PACs and PACs and PACs willing to write us big fat checks. We are starting from zero, and we are trying to build up our war chests and our coffers as big as we possibly can. So if you would please go to markkforcongress.com and make your donation today, it would be much appreciated. And know that you are fighting for a good cause. You're fighting for combative conservatism to fight back against the Democrats should they, God forbid, take control of the House of Representatives in 2026. And if they don't, you're fighting for a combative conservative who's not going to be wishy-washy or reach across the aisle or compromise with the lunatics on the left just to get what he wants. You're going to fight for somebody or vote for somebody who's going to go out there and fight for Donald Trump's agenda and conservative Christian values that are going to be on the ballot every single day for the final 2 years of President Donald Trump's second term. markkforcongress.com. There's never been a better time than right now to go there and make your donation. markkforcongress.com. In the meantime, I will be here at Patriot Outpost, Mike Bravo, for the remainder of the week, and I will still be bringing you all the news that you need, all the information that you desire, all the truth that you crave. I'm going to be telling you who your enemies are, how they're coming to get you, and what you and me and the rest of the Patriots out there, no matter where they are, need to do to stop them. Because if we are informed, and if we stick together, and if we are inspired, and if we continue to have that group energy that can go out in massive numbers and fight, then we will win over and over again, and we will save the Republic. Somewhere out there is a pina colada calling my name. Mark Kaye, Mark. I hear it somewhere. I will see you guys tomorrow. Or as they say here, I was going to say mañana, but